Last year, the PBA sued the CCRB with the hope of restricting our investigative powers. Last week, a court sided with the CCRB. Judge Arlene Bluth ruled that the board had the power to include misuse of body-worn cameras as an abuse of authority. Judge Bluth also determined that the CCRB could change the language we use regarding full investigations to make those results clearer and more transparent to the public. As a reminder, we changed exonerated to within NYPD guidelines and unsubstantiated to unable to determine. The judge did, however, rule that we continue to use more specific terminology when describing why we had to close complaints without full investigations. We are pleased that the courts have once again upheld the city charter, defended the CCRB's rights, and strengthened oversight. As the police unions work to undermine the CCRB's authority, we rely on elected officials more than ever to strengthen police oversight. The agency's number one legislative priorities for the last several years has been to be exempt from sealing statutes. Sealing statutes make it harder for the CCRB to hold officers accountable for misconduct. If evidence is sealed, it creates significant delays or impediments to investigations. The CCRB sometimes has to file motions to access basic evidence of a case. In one example, the case investigating the killing of Delron Smalls, the case was delayed by a year and a half as we awaited a judge's ruling. When that judge ruled in our favor, the PBA appealed. The case is still pending. Mr. Small's family has waited nearly 8 years to see the officer who killed their son held to account. This is unacceptable. We hope legislators in Albany will act to pass legislation that exempts the CCRB from sealing statutes. As we announced this last month, the budget crisis in New York City is greatly affecting the CCRB's ability to keep up with the rising number of cases. Executive Director John Darsh will now give us an update on this. John?
Thank you, Chair Rice. Earlier, I forgot to give my pronouns. I use he, him pronouns. Last month, we announced that due to the 15% budget cuts the Office of Management and Budget ordered, the CCRB will not be able to investigate all complaints within our jurisdiction. So far, the agency closed 245 complaints and referred 30 complaints to the NYPD. Going forward, the agency will report on investigations closed in this manner. This is a last resort. We hope the mayor and city council fully fund the CCRB so we can investigate every case within our jurisdiction and help ensure the safety of each and every New Yorker. We still encourage all New Yorkers to continue to file complaints if they experience misconduct, as we are still investigating thousands of cases. If our budget is restored quickly, we hope to reopen the closed complaints. We have updated our website and outreach presentations to include this information. We also updated our website to make it easier to view past board meetings. All of our board meetings are recorded and posted online within a few days. We have just added all of our past board meeting videos to YouTube and linked them to our website to make it easier for the public to find. Our office is open to walk-in complainants, but it is also possible to file complaints online at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint, by telephone at 1-800-341-2272 or by calling 311. If anyone wishes to file a complaint right now, we have 2 investigators on hand ready to take any new complaints. Jillian Bevins and Emma Steidehar, as well as one of our CAU staff members, Yvonne Torres. Some ground rules for today's meeting. And I actually think I saw a third investigator, Rob Ryan, here. Thank you, Rob, for coming. Some ground rules for this afternoon. We will hear from folks who are online first before going to the people who are here in person and wish to comment. Regardless of whether you are joining online or are here in person, please keep your comments to 4 minutes. If you are joining online and want to participate, please use the raise your hand function. I want to thank our staff for their hard work And thanks again to the members of the public for participating in tonight's meeting.
Thank you so much, John. Does anyone have any questions of our executive director? Does anyone have any questions? All right, terrific. We're going to ask for a presentation from our Director of Outreach, Mr. Jahai Rose.
Thank you very much, Chair Rice. My name is Jahai Rose. I am the Director of Outreach for the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and I go by he, him pronouns. Just want to provide a brief update of the agency and provide hopefully some fun updates and information. The Civilian Complaint Review Board is the nation's largest independent oversight entity over the largest police force in the country. The CCRB investigates, mediates, and prosecutes complaints of misconduct alleged against members of the NYPD. The agency is governed by a 15-member board. Many of those that you've met today on the dais or online. There are 5 that are appointed by the New York City Mayor, 5 are appointed by the New York City Council, 3 designated by the Police Commissioner, and 1 appointed by the Public Advocate, and the chair is jointly appointed by the Mayor and the New York City Council. The CCRB can accept complaints of allegations of misconduct where it relates to force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, and offensive language. A FADO is a helpful reminder. Just a brief update. On September 9th, 2023, the Office of Management and Budget announced citywide budget cuts. As a result, the CCRB will no longer be able to fully investigate certain cases within its jurisdiction. After careful consideration, effective January 1st, 2024, the CCRB suspended investigating for failure to provide RTK or right to know act cards with no other allegations, refusal to provide name and shield number with no other allegations, discourteous words and actions with no other allegations, threats with no action with no other allegations, refusal to process civilian complaints with no other allegations, property seizures with no other allegations, forcible removal to the hospital with no other allegations, and untruthful statements with no other allegations. Any complaint that has only the above referenced allegations will also be unable to investigate. The CCRB will resume investigating these cases once the city allocates sufficient funding to do so. If the complaint contains one of the above allegations, in addition to another allegation that falls within the CCRB's jurisdiction, every allegation of the complaint will still be investigated. There are various ways to file complaints with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. One of the easier ways, as previously mentioned, is by going to the CCRB's website. That's nyc.gov/CCR/CCRB complaint, or you can call the CCRB's hotline at 1-800-341-CCRB, or that's 1-800-341-2272. Remember, if you see footage of misconduct on social media or in news media, you could feel free to file a complaint, even if you are not there in person. Typical underscore for the CCRB is CCRB_NYC. Other ways to file complaints include calling 311. You could also visit the CCRB's headquarters at 100 Church Street on the 10th floor in Lower Manhattan. You could direct message the CCRB on Instagram and Twitter. You could also, or X, you could also send a letter to the CCRB. You could also file a complaint at a local precinct, even if it was not the precinct where the interaction took place. Officers are required to accept CCRB complaints at any precinct. They could also provide you with a request with a complaint form and a postage-free envelope. So the 2023 for the Civilian Complaint Review Board's outreach team was definitely interesting. The CCRB was able to engage 58,398 New Yorkers during the course of 1,265 events. We did that by partnering with 312 organizations throughout the 5 boroughs. We were able to do language access events, totaling a number of 337. We distributed 5,800 pieces of material in various languages to New Yorkers throughout the 5 boroughs. We connected with youth in a number of 149 events, totaling to 3,700 young people that we connected with throughout the year. We also connected with New York City Housing Authority residents in 89 different occasions and still connected with 3,700 NYCHA residents. The CCRB has an initiative called CCRB Cares, which I will explain shortly. And we were able to do 466 CCRB Care hours. We did this by connecting with New Yorkers through workshops, tabling, staff trainings, and flyer distributions. Also through initiatives called the Barbershop and Salon Series, CCRB Block by Block, CCRB Cares, and CCRB Courtside. This year, the agency had annual events. Some folks from Harlem would appreciate this. CCRB Courtside at the Rucker, where we were able to gauge thousands of young people that come to watch the New York City, historic New York City Harlem street basketball game at Rucker Park. We did our 5th annual Week of Awareness. We were able to engage hundreds of New Yorkers throughout the city of New York regarding bias-based policing and racial profiling. In addition to that, we were able to do our Youth Advisory Council 5th annual Speak Up, Speak Out, an international conversation about police misconduct. The different means of outreach that we did in order to gauge those over 50,000 New Yorkers were, one, the CCRB Barbershop and Salon Series, which we did in Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. We did CCRB Block by Block, where we walked neighborhoods and canvassed neighborhoods with members of the public. We did a revolving initiative with Downtown Goddard, where we gauged those that were experiencing street homelessness. We also did CCRB canvassing with Bronx SOS, Save Our Streets, and we did Occupy the Corner with East Flatbush Village, where we gauged members of the East Flatbush community. CCRB Cares is an initiative where the CCRB puts our sweat equity into communities to build trust and also provide information about our agency by volunteering with community members. As we do so, we provide information about our agency, build trust, and individuals know that we're there for them to provide resources that they need beyond the agency's ability and capacity to accept complaints and investigate complaints. We volunteered with the New York City Parks Department and the Borough of the Bronx and local food pantries citywide. If you would like to request a CCRB presentation, feel free to reach out to our the CCRB's outreach unit at outreach@ccrb.nyc.gov. You could also feel free to connect with us on social media at Twitter, also known as X, and Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that comprehensive report. Do any of our board members have any questions of Mr. Rose?
Just have one quick question for clarification. Going down that comprehensive list of events with NYCHA, was it 86 developments or 86 different events in some of the same developments?
86 different events. Some of them did relapse, so they could have been tenant associations, it could have been community street fairs, but we engaged 86 different times throughout the NYCHA developments in the city of New York.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
First of all, I'm from Queens, and I appreciate what you did in Harlem with Rutgers, all right? That's one thing. Jahai, with budgets, how is that going to affect all that you did, this good work that we did during 2023? How are the budgets cuts going to affect that, if at all?
So far, I think that might be a question better suited for the executive director, but on our end, we haven't made any changes to the way that we do outreach or the revolving programs that we've been doing so far.
Okay, so thank you, John.
So we had planned to add another outreach coordinator. That plan is on hold right now. There are going to be difficulties in printing more materials. So a lot of the things that we distributed, we are not going to be able to distribute. And a lot of the work will depend on Jahai and his team, and you know how committed the outreach folks are. So I'm still hopeful we will be able to reach New Yorkers where they are, but also the money for public education through advertising, whether it was online or on TV, radio, or print, is just not there. So we won't be doing that.
Do you reach out through the community boards? 52 community boards in the city, they're meeting once a month. These are the community leaders.
That's correct. So yes, we, all of our coordinators attend at least 1 to 2 community board meetings annually. And then we also connect with the community boards when they're ready to do, public and community events. Some of those partners that are listed in the slide definitely are community board partners.
How'd you make out with Vladik Houses? I have someone,
And
you and I shared a contact there.
yes, I did get a
with whom I
response.
am married.
Right. I didn't get a response yet.
Oh, you didn't get a response?
No.
I had that problem too. I will. I-
Just one other question. Out of these, what you call the unconventional events, if you had a bigger budget, were there any of those that you would repeat or want to expand, like the barbershop, beauty salon, or any of those you saw were most effective that you would like to expand in the upcoming year?
I believe when it comes to like CCRB courtside, I think what we would love to do is to be able to at least invest something into the actual sports activity itself to become a genuine partner. So a lot of times they like what we do and they allow us to table, they allow us to be kind of a part of the event, but without a genuine, tangible buy-in to be able to offer something to the program, we're still kind of a vendor sitting there sometimes, unless we have like baked-in relationships with them. So I think if a larger budget would allow us to do a little bit more of our CCRB courtside initiative. And then also when it comes to giveaways, some of our giveaways are helpful for the block by blocks, especially when we're doing street canvassing for those experiencing homelessness.
Thank you.
Jahai, your team hits every community board at least once during the year though, correct?
That's correct.
So then what's the plan for 2024?
So what we would like to do for 2024, while maintaining our numbers, is expand our outreach as much as possible to be able to use some of the relationships that we built in 2023, some of those hard relationships that where they really depend on us to be able to expand that, to be able to reach more New Yorkers. We've developed a very good relationship with programs like transfer high schools, who literally see us as an avenue for their students whenever they have issues. We also have a very good relationship with Generation Citizen. So those, we want to be able to use that to be able to amplify their voices and be able to use that to gain more access to more programs. In addition to Pathways to Graduation, who also gave us an avenue to get access to those that were not necessarily abundant in English. So some of our week of awareness was catering to those students that literally just arrived a couple of months ago but want to get their education.
Anything else from board members for Mr. Rose, including those who are online? Okay, thank you again for the terrific presentation and the work of your staff. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, we're going to go into the public comment portion of the meeting. We will begin with those joining us virtually who would like to make a comment, followed by those who are joining us in person. For those joining virtually, please use the raise your hand feature, and we please ask that you keep your comments to 4 minutes. Yahira, would you please call on the first person?
Thank you, Chair. First, we'll be hearing from Ace Sutherland, followed by Jeffrey Omura.
Hi, my name is A. Sutherland. My pronouns are they, them. I'm currently the Director of Community Organizing at Equality New York. I'm going to go a little bit slower just to be good with accessibility. We are the largest advocacy organization rooted in queer and trans liberation, and we have been beginning our work to see how we can help change things from the state advocacy level. We're working specifically with Jeffrey O'Mara, who's a member of our advisory council, and Catherine Bucellio, who's the owner of the Bodega Lounge, newly opened in Brooklyn as of October. So I just wanted to say thank y'all for this opportunity. Thank you for the time to allow us to even speak. And I'm really excited to see how we can continue to work together on the betterment of all New York City individuals from the state advocacy standpoint. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ace, for your comments. Appreciate them. Yahira, Mr. Omura is next.
Correct. Go ahead, Jeffrey. You can unmute and have your camera on. Jeffrey, there might be some technical difficulties. We'll circle back. We'll hear from Chris Dunn next, and we'll try Jeffrey one more time.
Unmuted. Can you hear me now, Arva?
I can hear you.
Great. Good afternoon to you and John and everybody else. I wanted to raise a question about the monthly statistical report, which you posted, which now has the year-end figures for 2023. And there are lots of things in there that are concerning, but the perhaps most dramatic thing is the sharp increase in complaints in 2023. And it appears there approximately is a 65% increase in complaints for the 2 years of the Adams administration. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the impact of the proposed budget cuts on the agency, which of course take on greater import in the face of a rising level of complaints. But the thing I want to focus on is what this dramatic increase reflects about police misconduct. And however, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I'd be very interested in hearing what the board is thinking about this steep increase in complaints that are coming and what that may mean about what has to happen in terms of what the board is doing with the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for that question. And we know that there's been we just released a report about the increase in complaints. We have some theories on that, but those have not been fully proven at this point. So I wanted to hear if any of the other members of the board wanted to speak on that, or else I'll turn it over to John. Okay.
Just don't have a firm answer on why there's the increase. There has been an expansion in the CCRB's jurisdiction, so that could result in an increase in complaints. But there are other reasons that we just don't know, and so it's something that our policy unit is digging into. What we do know is that the agency needs help and resources to adequately investigate, mediate, and prosecute allegations of misconduct.
Okay, well, John, I'd certainly be interested in seeing some analysis about the extent to which some of this is attributable to increases in the jurisdiction of the CCRB. And I am not somebody who tends to assign much weight to year changes in complaint numbers, because after all, complaints are just complaints. But these increases are so dramatic that something is going on. And I think the obvious suggestion is something is going on in the street that is different than what we have seen recently. For board members who may not have looked very closely at these numbers, this marks a 10-year high. Since 2012, there has been a steady decline in complaints with some small fluctuations. Last year, 2022, there was an uptick to be sure, but last year the complaints really exploded. I think there's something like over a 50% increase in complaints from 2022 to 2023. And that's not a change that we have seen in a very long time. So, John, I appreciate that the policy unit is looking at this, and I think that's right. But I think the board has got to start confronting this quite quickly because, again, these numbers are so significant that it feels to me like there's got to be some conversation with the department. I mean, we know the department is being more aggressive in terms of its tactics, and that is fine. The issue here is not they're being more energetic about enforcing the law. The concern, of course, is what they are doing is being very aggressive in terms of flouting the law and abusing people and misusing their authority. And at the risk of repeating myself, these increases are so dramatic that something real is going on. And I really hope the board is going to spend some serious time trying to get to the bottom of that and talking to the department, particularly the police department reps who are on the board. You folks are the ones who are most connected to the department. Something needs to be happening here. Thank you, Arba.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dunn. And as John mentioned, we are going to do that analysis because it's an increase in complaints, but we also need to know where the increases are coming from and in what category. So we'll take a deeper dive, and we'll definitely talk more about that in the future. Next, was there anyone else who was holding? Did Mr. Amaro, is he able to join us?
Yes, we'll try Jeffrey one more time, followed by Michael Myers.
Hi, everyone. This is Jeffrey O'Mara. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm a volunteer advisory council member of Equality New York, and we're looking at some ways to empower the CCRB because we're big fans of what you all do. We're looking forward to getting to know you all and hopefully make your job easier and build a better and safer New York for all of us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. Is Mr. Myers on the line?
Yes, Mr. Myers, can you hear us? There may be some technical issues with Michael Myers. We'll circle back. Next, we'll be hearing from Susan Hadley.
Yourself off mute.
Me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Susan.
Oh, you can hear me now. I'm sorry. I thought I was speaking the whole time. Hi, I'm a vocal New York Civil Rights Union leader. I wanted to know, what do you think about the How Many Stops Act? Do you think that would make your life easier?
So one of the main tools the CCRB has is paperwork that we use to identify officers who are involved in encounters. But we haven't, as an agency, dealt with the issue of whether or not how that legislation would impact the CCRB. But generally speaking, if the law is enacted, we would use the paperwork that it provided because any clues we can have to the identity of members of service in certain investigations will be helpful.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Susan. We'll try Michael Myers one more time.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you, Mr. Myers.
Oh, good. Okay, finally. I'm Michael Myers. I'm the president of the New York Civil Rights Coalition. First of all, I don't understand why we still don't have a quorum present, people in attendance to this meeting, in order to even adopt the minutes of the last meeting. If people cannot come to meetings, I urge them, we urge them, get off the board. If you can't come to meetings and do your job, get off the board. There are people waiting to replace you. Secondly, I want to know from the chair, are you still interim chair? Have you been appointed yet by the city council and the so-called mayor? I want to answer that question. I don't know why it's taking so long. Thirdly, we meaning you, I shouldn't say we, you meaning the CCRB has been in the process of getting the police commissioner, the current one now, I don't know how long he's going to be that, but he's the current one, to a meeting of the CCRB. Has he been invited to come to a public meeting of the CCRB so the public can look at him, listen to him, and so that he can hear us? Has that been done yet? Finally, I don't understand why we cannot have a CCRB that has a quorum and has members who are interested in following up on agendas and following up on the procedures that we have agreed to. I don't understand it. I get silence, crickets from the board members. I don't understand why you people are there. You are not representing the public. You're just not. You're doing a pitiful job. I want to emphasize that. All of you, especially the public members, especially the people who represent the city council, who represent the citizens of New York. And I'm furious about it. So I want to have some comment about whether or not you are there to do your jobs, to hold the police accountable. And all these meetings and publicity and public relations efforts are just that. I appreciate Mr. Rose's report. But when it comes down to bottom line, it's all PR, public relations. I want to have action. I want to see CCRB taking action. And if you don't have enough money to investigate complaints, then maybe you ought to all, as a board, say, we don't have enough money to do the job, we have to resign. And have the mayor be accountable, have the police commissioner be accountable to the CCRB. I am so sick of this cowardice, this pusillanimous actions or no action on the part of the CCRB. I got a lot more to say, but I don't want to hold up the meeting any longer than I have to, because I have a lot more to say and I don't have the time to say it.
Madam Chair, I just want to point out to the people here and online that these board members considered 2,500 full investigations this year. That's not just showing up to a board meeting once a month. They give huge amounts of their time to review extremely serious, complicated complaints that oftentimes have large numbers of allegations and large amounts of evidence that they have to review. And so the idea that they're not hardworking is untrue and unfair. And I understand they might not want to say it, but if you look at our monthly report for January, in 2023, there were 2,581 full investigations that this board closed. And some of them are short investigations and some of them are long, complicated investigations. And it is a huge amount of work, and I'm proud to work for them.
Thank you, John. I do really, truly appreciate that. In regards to the quorum, we most times do have quorum. We have a couple of board members who are joining us by online today, and we have a few who are out of town, but normally we do have quorum. I am still your interim chair. At any point that changes, I will most certainly let you all know. We have not requested the meeting with the NY Police Commissioner to this point, and I believe that concludes all the questions from Mr. Myers today. Yohira, do you have any other people online who have questions?
Yes, next we'll be hearing from Sean.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about the integrity of the board. Here's the situation. I'm not asking you guys to comment on these complaints, but there were two CCRB complaints. Well, I made several, but there were two CCRB complaints in particular that I want you guys to address. One was a decade ago and one was recently in 2022, and you just gave me your findings about a week ago. And here's the situation. In both situations, I was in the subway system recording police activity. In both situations, I was contacted by police for recording, for my recording, and kicked out of the subway station, and in both cases, force was used. Here's the difference in those two cases from recently and a decade ago. The one a decade ago made the major media. It made the news. It was considered high profile by CCRB. And the findings in that case, they found the officer, they substantiated the complaint against the officer for the use of force and everything. And surprisingly, I have it in here from Discovery because I sued, that CCRB even cited case law to say what the police did was wrong and approaching me for taking pictures in the subway system and kicking me out. Now, contrast that to today. What you find in this case, which the facts are the same, are virtually the same in both cases. In the first case, it involved one cop. In this case, it involved 5 cops. But in this case, you found that the use of force and everything was within NYPD guidelines, and that and even in this case, an officer said to me, "Get the fuck out." You found that for the language, you found that was within NYPD guidelines. My question is, I'm trying to figure out what guidelines are you citing that this was within so that I can begin the Monell claim, which I thank you for. And is the discrepancy, the difference between a decade ago and now, is that an integrity issue with CCRB or a competence issue with CCRB? That you're less competent today than you were yesterday, or you have less integrity today than you did yesterday? Or maybe was it that the case from a decade ago, because it was high profile, you actually did your job? I just want answers on that.
I'm going to ask John to take that. There's some other options, though, and that there could be differences between the cases or differences in between the guidelines. But I'm going to go ahead and have our executive director respond.
Sean, thank you for participating. I think if you reach out to me or share your information with the folks online, I will have our FOIL people get you all of the materials from the current investigation so you can see why the board made the determination it did. But these are very fact-specific investigations. And so if a few details are different from the incident, the recent incident and the incident from 10 years ago, you could have very different results in the investigations. And Madam Chair, earlier we heard from Ace and Jeffrey, who were members of an organization that I had not really dealt with before, Jeffrey and Ace, from the Equality New York. And so I just wanted to thank them for joining and let them know that Jahai and I will be reaching out to meet with them and figure out how we can partner with them in the future.
Thank you. Yahira, is there anyone else online with comments?
No, that concludes the virtual portion, Chair.
Okay. So if there's anyone in the room who would like to make a comment. Okay. For those joining us in person and are interested in making a public comment, if you can line up behind the podium, we're also going to ask you to limit your comments to 4 minutes. Anyone in the room who would like to make a comment this evening? Okay, we will then move to old business. Do we have any old business to come before the board? Any old business? Do we have any new business to come before the board? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move now that we break into executive session. The agenda for executive session is the executive director will discuss pending personnel actions, and the general counsel will update the board on pending litigation. I'd like to make a motion to conclude the January board meeting. All right. All those in favor? All right, the meeting is concluded. Thank you so much.